assistant professor from Department of Computer Application, and I welcomes you all in this online lecture series. Today we will discuss multi-threading with respect to Java. I hope you have heard this term in operating system as well, in which what was multi-threading? For maximum utilization of CPU, we use this concept. That means at one time we can execute more than one processes, right? So in the similar way, Java also support one important feature that is known as multi-threading that we will discuss today. So let's further proceed. So it is a Java feature that allow concurrent execution of two or more part of a program for maximum utilization of CPU. The motive is same. That means we want our CPU to do the more task. So we in a single program, we may have more than one part that will execute concurrently, right? So each part of a program is called as a thread. That is why because we are having a single program and having more than one thread, this term is known as multi-threading, right? So thread are lightweight processes within a process. These are known as lightweight processes because they occupy the same memory, right? So that is why these are known as lightweight processes. Now moving further, we will discuss about advantages of multi-threading. That is, first advantage is multi-threading saves time as you can perform multiple operations together, right? So it saves time because at one time we are performing more than one operation. If we want our CPU to do more tasks, or if we want our CPU to more utilization, then we will use this term as multi-threading, right? So this is the first advantage. Second advantage, the threads are independent, so it does not block the user to perform multiple operation at the same time. So if we are using the concept of multi-threading, so we can save our time and we can perform our work better in a less amount of time, because CPU is we are utilizing the CPU maximum. Now, how we can create how we can execute this multi-threading in Java? Then there are two ways. That is, first one is by extending the thread class, and second one is implementing the runnable interface that we are going to discuss in next slides one by one. So now let's first move to the first topic, that is by extending the thread class. So this is create a thread by a new class that extend thread class. So for implementing this feature, for executing the multi-threading process, what we will do, we will extend the thread class, because all the methods of thread class are available that we are going to discuss while we will execute the multi-threading feature, and create an instance of that class, right? Second is the extending class must override run method, which is the entry point of the new thread. If we want our program to do more than one task, then we must override the run method that is already defined in the thread class, right? So let's take one example through which we will understand better, right? So what we are doing, we are having a class public, that is class known as my thread. This is the thread, this is the class name which is extending the thread, right? So thread is a already built-in class that we are going to extend in our program, because then only we can override the run method, right? So we are overriding the run method of the thread class, right? So in this run method, what we are doing, we are just simply printing system.out.println my first thread, and through main, this is the second point. After extending, class must override the run method, which is the entry point of the thread class. Now we have created a method and we have to start our method, right? So what we will do, we will create an object of our class, that is the empty, and through empty.start, what we are doing, we are starting our run method. Okay, so what will be the output? It will, when we start the method, then it will execute this run method, and it will print the my first thread, right? In the same way, we can have more than one method in our class, and we can execute it parallelly, right? So what will be the output? Output will be the my first thread, right? So this is the first way through which we can execute our run method, or we can create our thread, right? So this is the first way to create the thread. We are just extending the thread and we are overriding the run method of the thread class, right? Now, there is one more thing that we can add in this program is we call run method directly without using the start. Okay, so in the main method, as what we were doing, we were using this term as empty dot start, right? But in this, instead of using empty dot start, we can directly run our method with using empty dot run, right? So this is the another way to start our thread, that is empty dot run, right? The output will be same in both cases. That means in the previous cases, as we are getting the output my first thread, in the similar way we will get the output method as my first thread using this method also, right? So instead of writing empty dot start, we can use empty dot run, right? So just remember these things. Now, moving to the second way, implementing the runnable interface. This is the second way through which we can execute our program. The easiest way to create thread is to create a class that implement the runnable interface. This is the second way, right? In the first way, what we are doing, we were just extending our thread class and overriding the run method. Whatever thing, whatever operation you want to perform in a program, then just write these statement into the run method and call the start method, right? So in the second method, what we will do, we will implement the program using the runnable interface. So the easiest way to create a thread is to create a class that implement the runnable interface. This is the second way to implement the topic of multi-threading, right? So after implementing runnable interface, the class need to implement the run method. In the same way, we are having the run method in both cases. Either you are using by extending the thread class, or you are using the runnable interface, right? So run method introduce a concurrent thread into your program. This thread will end when run returns, right? When return will complete its task, then program will return back to the main method, and then the thread will be ended. The second point is you must specify the code for your thread inside the run, right? So whatever thing, whatever execution, whatever statement you want to run in a program, you must write these statement into the run method. Next is run method can call other methods, can use other classes and declare variables just like any other normal method. So using a run method, we can call another method from run method. We can use another class. We can call another class and declare variable as we do in normal methods. Right? In a method, what we can do, we can call another method. We can declare the variables. We can call another classes. So in the same way, in through run method, we can call other methods and we can call other classes as well, right? So now what will be the code of the program? In the similar way, we were having the class that is known as, let's say, my thread, right? So we are having this class and name as my thread, and it is implementing the runnable, right? So runnable is interface. Just remember these things. Runnable is the interface, and in the previous example, we were extending the thread class, right? So in this, we are, because runnable is an interface, so we are using the term as implements, right? If we are using the class, then we must extend that class, and if you are using the interface, then you should be implement that runnable interface. You are using whatever interface you are using. Either you are using another interface. In this case, we are using runnable, right? So that is why we are using the term as implements, right? Again, the same things, we will be having run method. Now the things that you must remember is these statement. In the previous example, we were just doing, we were creating a variable, we are creating the object of the class, and we were just starting the method, right? Just remember this thing, that in the previous example, we were be having these two terms only, right? These two statements only, in which we, what we were doing, we were creating the object of the class, and then we were starting our method using object name dot start, or using object name dot run, right? But now one point that you must remember is that start is a method of thread class, right? So in if you are implementing the runnable interface, then you cannot directly start with object of that class, right? In that case, what you have to do, you have to first create the object of the thread class, and within that object you must pass the object of the your class, right? So now just see this example. In this case, what we have done in this case, if you see that, first of all, we have created my thread empty is equal to new my thread, right? So in the first line, we are creating the object of the thread class. Then we have created the thread object t, and in the thread object we are passing our thread class object. So, and then we are starting the our run method, right? So these point you must remember, that if you are using the thread class, then you can directly implement the run method. You can directly call the run method using the object of your class, right? But if you are implementing the runnable interface, then you must create the object of your class as well as the thread method, right? So these point you must be remembered. Now moving to the difference of these runnable interface and your next we have learned about two topics, right? What topics we have learned? We have learned about these two topics, that is implementing runnable interface, and second one was the implementing the another second thing, right? Now coming to the next, implementing the runnable interface and extending the thread class difference, right? This is again very important topic. So we have learned two methods for executing the multi-threading concept using the thread class or implementing the runnable interface, right? So the first point is, thread is a class. It is used to create a thread, right? Thread is a class and we were extending that class. In case of runnable was the interface which is used to create a thread, right? So this is the basic difference between these two methods. In the second method, it has multiple methods including start and run, because thread individually is having these methods like start method, like run method, like sleep, wait, resume. So these are the methods that are available in the thread class, right? But in runnable interface, we have only one abstract method, that is run, right? So it is an abstract method. For running this method, for calling this run method, we need the thread class, right? In the next difference, each thread create a unique object and get associated with it, right? So in each thread creates a unique object and get associated with it. Multiple threads share the same object, right? So in case of runnable interface, you will be having the multiple thread that share the same object. Thread, in case of if we talk about memory, so in case of thread class, more memory is required because we are creating the unique object, right? But in case of runnable interface, less memory will be required. So if memory is a constraint, because memory is again a very important constraint, so you must go for the runnable interface. If we talk about the your last topic, that is the last limitation, if we talk about thread and runnable interface, then multiple inheritance is not allowed in Java. Hence after class extend thread class, right, it cannot extend any another class, right? But if you are using the runnable interface, then if a class is implementing the runnable interface, then your class can extend another class, right? So this feature we cannot we cannot extend another class if we are going to extend the thread class, right? Because you are already extending one class, so you cannot extend another class. But this is not the constraint in runnable interface, right? So this is the main basic difference between thread and runnable interface. I hope this topic is clear to you. So these were the references. Okay, thank you so much.